Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Frama Pani and my sign language interpreter is Franklin Efe. Now let's bring you the headlines. National Economic Council approves 5 billion naira to each state to cushion effects of fuel subsidy removal. Arraignment of suspended Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, stalls at High Court of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. And West African military chiefs meet in Ghana to coordinate possible armed intervention to reverse coup in Niger as Germany calls for European Union sanctions against coup leaders. The National Economic Council has approved 5 billion naira to each state to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. The federal government has also released 5 trucks of rice to each state as palliative to be distributed to the poor, while the council constitutes a committee to dialogue with labor unions in the ongoing issue over the minimum wage for workers. These were part of the outcomes of the National Economic Council meeting in Abuja, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima. President Bola Tinubu has assigned portfolios to ministers designate, and Kenneth Nanim has the list of ministers and their portfolios.
Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, Minister of State, Environment and Ecological Management, Ishaq Salako, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edu, Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Bumi Tijani, Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, Minister of State, Health and Social Welfare, Tijani Alausa, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, Minister of Transportation, Adeboyega Oyetola, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Anite, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji, Minister of State, Labor and Employment, Nkiruka Onyejocha, Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy, Minister of Works, David Umahi, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kemo, Minister of Youth, Abubakar Momo, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Peter Edu, Minister of State, Gas Resources, Ekberikpe Egbo, Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Henikin Olopobere, Minister of Sports Development, John Eno, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, Minister of Art, Culture and the Creative Economy, Hanatu Musawa, Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, Minister of State Defense, Bello Matawale, Minister of State Education, Yusuf Sunumu, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangewa, Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, Abdallah Gwarzo, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, Minister of State, Federal Capital Territory, Meriga Mahmood, Minister of State, Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Goronyo, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kiari, Minister of Education, Tahir Maman, Minister of Interior, Saidu Alkali, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gedam, Minister of State, Steel Development, Meigari Amadu, Minister of Steel Development, Shaibu Audu, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Latif Fagbemi, Minister of Labor and Employment, Simon Along, Minister of State, Police Affairs, Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Zephaniah Jeselu, Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Joseph Usef, Minister of State, Agriculture and Food Security, Aliu Sabi Abdullahi.
Right, and joining me in the studio is the Deputy Spokesman of House of Representatives, Philip Agbese, to shed more light on the portfolios and expectations. Mr. Philip, thanks for joining us on the news.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Now, with the list of ministers and their portfolios, Nigerians can now expect the administration to take effect fully. What's your impression respective to the portfolios?
Well, first I want to stand on the position of the House of Representatives, which was earlier to commend Mr. President for the careful selection of highly professional individuals who have equally passed through the screening of the Senate, to be confirmed as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And for us, the distribution of portfolio that took place yesterday is also another icing on the cake. For us in the House of Representatives, we welcome them as distinguished Nigerians. We welcome them on board the Nigerian project, which the Third National Assembly has equally signed on to. And for us, it is a call to duty for each and every one of us, those of us in the House, in the National Assembly, and for those who will be in the Federal Executive Council. In the end, we expect a high level of collaboration between the executive and the legislature to make sure that we deliver on the dividends of democracy to Nigerians. And coming from the State Economic Council again is the issue of distribution of palliatives. These are some of the issues that we've debated in the House, and we are fully, with the President and the federal government to ensure that our constituents benefit maximally. On the distribution of portfolios to these individuals who have been appointed as minister by Mr. President, for us it is a very good one, particularly for every one of them, and those of them who until this moment are still members of the 10th National Assembly. We congratulate them for this opportunity given to them by Mr. President to contribute their quota to national development as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For our colleague and patriot, Honorable Tunji Bumi Ojo, Sunoni, and all the former parliamentarians who will be serving in the Federal Executive Council, we welcome what has been given to them, and we strongly believe that they will do very, very well, in the discharge of their duties in this critical national assignment.
Okay, you just spoke about the working with the executive, that's the National Assembly and the executive. Let's be more specific now. We're into talking in the area of, palliative and fuel subsidy. What should Nigerians expect going forward? Yes,
what we have done in the 10th Assembly as part of our legislative agenda, first is to ensure that key legislations that were passed in the 9th Assembly, are driven, to critical points and given life, to the extent that their intentions, the intentions of those legislation by Parliament are well achieved. What do I mean by this? I'm trying to say that, for instance, like the Petroleum Industry Act, which was actually a bill passed by the last Assembly, it has come to bear, and it is part of that Petroleum Industry Act today that gave birth to the removal of fuel subsidy. And the removal of fuel subsidy is something that all Nigerians are united. We all came together to say, yes, it is high time we remove subsidy and then we end the endemic corruption in that sector. Having achieved that, it is our collective responsibility, both as a parliament and the executive, to ensure that at one end we are able to balance the challenges that have accompanied the removal of fuel subsidy, and at another end that we equally deliver on our promises to the people to make sure that they don't suffer unduly for the collective sacrifices which all of us we are making to make sure that this country works for the common people of this country. And again, in terms of executive legislation relationship, yes, the ministers will have a lot to do because they are going to be the key drivers of the ministries, and in major respect, the key drivers of the department and agencies. And it is part of our legislative responsibility to carry out oversight functions over the MDAs. So I believe that with our posture and the legislative agenda of the Speaker, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, we are all going to work in harmony for the collective good of the Nigerian people. It is our belief in the House that the newly sworn-in ministers who have just been given their portfolios will also do their best to ensure, that they don't see Parliament as an organ of government that will be running riot with the executive, if we all work together, it doesn't mean that one, is subservient to the other. We are all partners in progress, and it is our desire, it is our belief in the House that will receive the kind of cooperation that we have been receiving from Mr. President, even from the ministers who will be inaugurated into office in the next few days. And we are here as a House, to equally intervene in terms of making critical bills, laws that will help the executive in moving the country forward, because the essence of governance is when it is beneficial to the largest population of the people, and that is exactly what we intend to achieve in the House. So working together, I think it's going to be a win-win situation if there is a harmonious working relationship between the executive and the legislature. And for us in the House, we are fully determined to ensure that we achieve that to the highest maximum level.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Mr. Philip Agbaste. We sincerely look forward to the results of you working together with this, as National Assembly with the executives. Right. And still staying in the House, Speaker House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas has announced replacements for some House Committee chairmen who have been appointed as ministers by President Bola Tinubu. In a statement personally signed by the Speaker, Representative Mahmouda Abdullahi is now Chairman, House Committee on Army, while Representative Pascal Agbodike becomes Chairman, House Committee on Hydrological Services. Others are Representative Dennis Idahosa as Chairman, House Committee on Healthcare Services, Representative Emmanuel Upong Udo, Chairman, House Committee on Electronic and Digital Banking, while the House Committee on Institutional Reforms is to be chaired by Representative Bukar Talba. The appointment shall take immediate effect, while the legislative records shall be updated upon resumption of the House from recess. And now, West African military chiefs met in Ghana on Thursday to coordinate a possible armed intervention to reverse a coup in Niger, as Germany called for European Union sanctions against the rebel leaders. Charles Alpha reports.
Alarmed by a series of military takeovers in the region, the Economic Community of West African States agreed to activate a standby force to restore constitutional order in Niger. Troops of ECOWAS have said they are ready to participate in a standby force that could intervene in that country. In a meeting in Accra, Ghana on Thursday, the defense chiefs said they are prepared to restore civil rule in Niger.
This junta in Niger is playing cat and mouse with the community. They should know one thing. They have flouted their own constitution that forbids military incursions into politics. They have flouted ECOWAS instruments, particularly the various sections of the Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance that declares zero tolerance for power obtained or maintained by unconstitutional means.
Ivory Coast, Benin and Nigeria are expected to contribute troops, but little details has emerged over a potential Niger operation.
If everything else fails, the valiant forces of West Africa, both the military and the civilian components, are ready to answer to the call of duty.
ECOWAS has already applied trade and financial sanctions, while France, Germany and the United States have suspended aid programs. On Thursday, Germany said it wanted the EU to impose sanctions on the coup leaders. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Still on the foreign scene, thousands of protesters flocked the streets of Bogota on a march against the country's president, Gustavo Petro. Charles Alpha reports that the protesters are carrying flags of Colombia and placards calling for the president's impeachment.
Some of the placards read, "Go outside Pedro, do not settle in Colombia. We do not want to be ruled by communism," and "Dismissal to Pedro."
Petro guerrillero asesino abajo! Petro
The march was called by the Colombian opposition led by Centro Democrático Party, demanding the resignation of Pedro and a call for his impeachment for the alleged scandals he is involved in. The alleged scandal involving Nicolas Petro, eldest son of the Colombian president, broke out a couple of months ago, raising doubts about the financing of President Gustavo Petro's 2022 presidential campaign. He was arrested in northern Colombia and investigated for allegedly accepting thousands of dollars from a drug trafficker who wanted to contribute to Petro's 2022 presidential campaign. Nicolas Petro pleaded innocent to the charges. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
More than 60 migrants are feared dead after a Spanish fishing vessel off the Atlantic island of Cape Verde rescued a boat that started with more than 100 aboard on Thursday. Again, Charles Alpha has the report.
Spokesperson, International Organization for Migration, Safa Mseli, says 7 dead bodies were found on a boat while an estimated 56 are missing at sea and presumed dead. Senegal's Foreign Affairs Ministry says 38 survivors were rescued earlier in the week near Cape Verde, about 620 kilometers off the coast of West Africa. The Spanish migration advocacy group Walking Borders said the vessel was a large fishing boat called a pirogue, which had left Senegal on July 10. Reports say families in Fars Boye, a seaside town 145 kilometers north of Dakar, had reached out to Walking Borders on July 20 after 10 days without hearing from loved ones on the boat. The fishing vessel came across the fishing boat on Monday morning about 150 miles north of the archipelago's Sol Isla, but was unable to tow the fish boats and took the survivors on board. They rowed from West Africa to Spain. The number of migrants leaving Senegal on rickety wooden boats has surged over the past year. The boats tried to reach Spain's Canary Island and an archipelago off the northwest coast of Africa that has been used as a stepping stone to continental Europe. On August 7, the Moroccan Navy recovered the bodies of 5 Senegalese migrants and rescued 189 others after the boat capsized off the coast of Western Sahara. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. We will be back with more reports after this break. Thanks for staying with us. Now let's peep the education sector. Nigeria will now leverage on global best practices and adopt an effective national innovation system which will translate research output to products. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, Andrew David Adejo, who spoke at the workshop, urged participants to learn and improve on the new ways of doing things. Dennis Temple reports. We sincerely apologize for the loss of audio in that report. We'll move now to the judiciary sector. The arraignment of the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Abuja has been stalled. Emefiele, who was in court, could not, however, take his plea. Dele Atumbi of our judiciary desk reports.
Nigeria filed a 20-count charge bordering on alleged procurement fraud against the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and 2 others. In this criminal matter, the federal government of Nigeria is the prosecutor, while Godwin Emefiele, Saidatu Yaro, and a firm in which the second defendant has economic interest are the defendants. Godwin Emefiele, who was docked on a 20-count charge, could not take his plea due to the absence of the second defendant, Saidatu Yaro. The prosecution counsel, who is the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation, Abubakar Muhammad, after the matter has been called, informed the court of the absence of the second defendant as a result of ill health. In the light of this, the prosecution counsel pleaded with the court for an adjournment for the prosecution to be able to produce the second defendant in court. Counsel to Emefiele as the first defendant, Akinkotu Kende SAN, did not oppose the application of the prosecution. Emefiele and two other defendants will be standing trial on a 20-count charge bordering on alleged procurement fraud running to 6.9 billion naira.
They wanted to arraign him today on a 20-count charge bordering on procurement.
The presiding judge, Justice Amsa Mwazu, adjourned the matter to 23rd August 2023 for proper arraignment of the three defendants. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
In another news, 36 armed forces personnel died in the 14th August 2023 air crash and ambush in Zungeru and Shiroro local government areas of Niger State. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, stated this at the Defense Headquarters Abuja to clear speculation on the recent attack and Nigerian Air Force mishap.
In the death of 3 officers, 22 soldiers, while 7 were wounded in action. As a result of this, there was need for casualty evacuation. While that operation was on, the helicopter crashed. One thing is for sure, no group will strike at own troops without injurious consequences.
Similarly, Air Commodore Edward Gapquet enjoined citizens to see the ongoing task of securing the nation as collective responsibility rather than propagating falsehoods that tend to undermine military's efforts.
Of course, that aircraft come down. And that is the reason why we continue to advise our citizens to be wary of the kind of things we keep on sending around on social media.
Correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the military says it has upskilled operations to sniff out the criminals in the attack. The renewed Hope Health agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu intends to cover over 50 million Nigerians, most especially the vulnerable. Special Advisor to the President on Health, Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, who said this at the National Health Agent Summit in Abuja, noted that the President is committed to achieving this within the next 4 years. Basi Ita Ekpan reports.
This workshop is put together by the officials of the British Council to train stakeholders in the Nigerian education sector. The objective is to borrow a leaf from the British education curriculum with a view to develop a homegrown solutions to myriad of problems confronting Nigerian universities. Speakers at the event agreed that there is a disconnect in the country's education ecosystem.
A curriculum is a living endeavor. It needs to be upgraded every time along with what is happening in real life situations. We are moving into the 4th industrial revolution. In fact, most developed countries are moving into the 5th industrial revolution, but our current curriculum can probably manage the 2nd industrial revolution.
Is on knowledge transfer. It's just to discuss the potential to really exploit a lot of the innovation that comes out of Nigeria. Nigeria has tremendous people, tremendous skills and talent, and these things need to be applied to some of the challenges that the country faces.
Many believe that the problems confronting the education system in Nigeria can be addressed.
National Federated Repository, whereby all the beneficiary institutions of TED Fund, will now have their research materials on one portal where you can go to and type, I want to know who has done cassava research in Nigeria or in a particular state. When he has done so, that information will pop up. That is what we've been working on in the past 2 years.
The theme for this conference is a training program for National Universities Commission and the Ministry of Education on the effective national system of innovation. In Abuja, Dennis Temple, NTA News.
We apologize for the mix-up there. The report you just saw was the British Council meeting with NUC officials. Moving on. In keeping with the federal government's livelihood support to farmers, vulnerable Nigerians and those who lost household equipment to the 2022 flood disaster, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has extended support to the 6 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory. Director General of the agency, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, said all persons affected across the country will be assisted. Ilyasu Yakubu has the report.
11,101 households across the 6 area councils of the FCT have been earmarked to benefit from the intervention. The exercise, which is done under the federal government's 2023 Special National Economic and Livelihood Emergency Intervention, is segmented into 3 categories with allocation of food items to vulnerable Nigerians, farm implement to farmers, and household equipment to residents affected by last year's flood disaster. The beneficiaries commended the federal government and NEMA for the support at these difficult times of their lives.
And if they can keep it, kudos to this government of this day.
I'm very, very happy because I didn't even expect that such a thing will come to mind.
NEMA representative and that of the FCT Emergency Management Agency say mechanisms have been put in place to ensure a seamless exercise that will guarantee direct contact with the actual beneficiaries.
This item is meant to bring support to them and also enhance their economic capacity.
And everybody that you see here, no matter how the crowd, everybody have one paper or the other to collect anything that is on his paper.
The ceremony, which took place at Twingamaji village, was attended by chairman, district heads and opinion leaders of the council. In Abuja, Ilyasu Yakubu, NTA News.
Now let's take a look at Friday's weather prospects for Nigeria and other parts of the world. And that concludes the news on NTA International. Thanks for being a part of it. I am Frama Pani, and my sign language interpreter has been Franklin Efe. Thanks.